Hello ladies and gentlemen and movie lovers of all kind, and welcome back to the channel. As always, I am your host, Brett Murphy, and for today's video, it is going to be another godlike 2 Not Quite, which is essentially just my version of a tier video. And for this one, I am going to be tiering every major Harry Potter character. So I guess this is sort of the conclusion to the absolute Harry Potter bender we have been on the last couple of months for my channel, and honestly, this feels like a fitting conclusion. I gave my thoughts on each and every film as individuals with all my retro reviews, and then I did my ranking where I compared all the movies, and then I did Harry Potter versus another epic fantasy franchise with The Lord of the Rings in that cinema showdown, so why not give my thoughts and feelings on every one of the major characters now too. There also wasn't really a set criteria for choosing which characters would end up on the list and which wouldn't. I just chose the characters that I felt in one way or another in one, two, or all of the movies played an important part in the journey. So maybe I forgot a side character that you really liked, and if that's the case, then I apologize. But these are the ones that I felt should be included. As a brief note too, before we get into the actual tier video, there are 63 characters on this list. I believe this is the biggest tier list I have done yet. So, of course, some are major characters, some are more minor major characters, so there are a few that will definitely be getting more attention than others. I will try to give my honest, unfiltered thoughts on each, but some will definitely be cut short because 63 characters is a lot of characters to cover, so bear with me. Before we hop into the actual tier video itself, I just wanted to let you all know that I have an entire playlist dedicated to all of my godlike to not quite videos. So be sure to check that out, and I guarantee you'll find something you like. And so, without further ado, let's hop right into things. Okay, so as always, folks, I will go through each of the tiers just for those of you who are new. Again, because this is sort of my version of a tier video, so I have named each tier accordingly. So firstly, you have the godlike tier, which is your god tier. It's the best of the best, it doesn't get any better. You have your awesome sauce tier, which replaces the traditional A tier. You have the good as gold, which replaces the traditional B tier. You have quite alright, replacing the C. Super meh, replacing the D tier. And then, of course, at the very bottom, you have F, aka the rock bottom for myself. So, yeah, with that, we can hop right into it. So the first character up on our list is Aberforth Dumbledore, the brother of Albus Dumbledore, of course. He's not in it very much, which sucks, because it's Kieran Hines, I believe is how you pronounce his name. He's the actor. I think he's a great actor, and I think he does very well in the role, but he only really gets like one prominent moment in the entire franchise, and that's in the Deathly Hallows Part 1, and that's, I say least favorite. I still gave the movie an 8.5, but nevertheless, the character really didn't get any time to shine, so I can't justify putting him anywhere above super meh. And that pains me because I think that the one scene that he has is really powerful, where he sort of talks about his brother Albus and how much Harry just willingly trusts him and takes him for his word and everything that he says, and he really does sort of make Harry question everything he knew about Dumbledore. So I do really like the scene that he's in, but he's just not in enough of the franchise or even that particular movie for me to justify putting him any higher. Arthur Weasley is an absolute unit. Love Arthur Weasley. You're gonna see a lot of the Weasleys super high up because I love the entire Weasley family. I just love how humble he is. I love how happy he is. I love how he doesn't give in to any time someone is, like Lucius Malfoy in particular, is talking about how like the Weasley family is beneath them and blah blah blah, and how he deals with muggles and that's his part at the Ministry of Magic and how that's like beneath everyone else, but he always remains humble, he always remains happy, and he loves his kids, and I think he's a great character, and he takes in Harry as one of his own. Next is Bellatrix Lestrange, and you already know, I don't think she quite goes into godlike because she's not necessarily in... Do I want to put her in godlike actually instead? You know what? I think I might, because although she's not necessarily as prominent of a character as I would have liked in her time within the movies, she, spoiler alert, kills Sirius Black, she kills Dobby, and she is definitely Voldemort's right-hand gal. Helena Bonham Carter absolutely owned this role, and her death is also one of the most satisfying things in the entire franchise. So I think she earns the godlike tier. After my most recent rewatch where I reviewed all the movies, I love Bellatrix Lestrange, and I think she is deserving of the godlike tier. It kills me to put her above Arthur Weasley, but she does so much damage, and again, her death is so satisfying, so I think she deserves to be in the godlike tier. I really do. Bill Weasley, yeah, Superman. He's not like a rock bottom character, but like, man, oh man, he really doesn't do much, and I don't, as far as I'm aware, we don't really see him until the second half, maybe not even the Deathly Hallows movies. And again, he only has a few scenes, and he just doesn't really do much in those scenes. He's kind of just another character in those scenes. Yeah, we hear a lot about him, but we don't really see enough of him for me to justify putting him any higher. Cedric, another one. The Superman tier, I feel I'm scared is going to fill up very quickly. Cedric Diggory, they talk a big game about Cedric, about how much everyone loves him, about how athletic he is and awesome he is, but I found he just doesn't really do much in the Goblet of Fire. His death is shocking and sudden, and then they talk about it afterwards, about like how, you know, he's doing this for Cedric and stuff like that throughout like the Order of the Phoenix and everything, but as a character himself, we just don't really get enough of him for me to really care about him whatsoever. Next is Cho. I will put her in the quite alright tier. I don't think she's the most interesting character on this list. However, Harry definitely does have that thing for her for a few movies, and I do like those moments within the Order of the Phoenix when they talk about Cedric's death and how much it is affecting her, and it really helped to sort of bring the character into her own. And then even though Harry ends up with Ginny, and she still has feelings, meaning Cho, for Cedric, she still sticks with Harry and sticks with Dumbledore's army, and she, even though she is the one that rats them out in the end, I still do think she improved as a character as the movies went on from when we first saw her. Towards the end, no, she doesn't play a prominent role, but I do appreciate the bits and pieces that she plays in Harry's overall journey. Colin Creevey, I'm sorry, dude. This guy was annoying as hell, man. I don't really have anything else to say about him. He's in the Chamber of Secrets. I feel bad because he's just a kid, and as a kid actor and a kid in Hogwarts in this wizarding world, and Harry Potter's this, you know, big famous celebrity and stuff like that, I get it. But, like, man, this kid was annoying. He was so annoying. Sorry, Colin Creevey. Crabbe and Goyle, rock bottom, because I feel bad for the actors because they did nothing. They had, like, I don't even know if they had any lines except for in, like, the Chamber of Secrets, and even then, they just mouthed along to Ron and Harry's voices. They just do nothing. Apart from the first two movies, they're seen pretty prominently in the first two movies, but after that, you like, notice them like they're an Easter egg. You're like, oh, they're there, there's Crabbe and Goyle, like, in the background, sitting behind Malfoy. They're over there, standing against the wall. They just walk past. Like, they're barely in it at all, and they're complete just wastes of character. They're pylon cones. They're bricks. They're there, and they're important because, you know, they're Malfoy's main cronies, but, you know, no personality, and just nothing at all to care about with these two characters. And I feel bad because I know the actors, I'm sure that they loved being in the roles, but, like, they just don't do anything. Barty Crouch Jr., first one going in the good as gold tier. Look, David Tennant, awesome actor. I love him in everything that he's in. He is so good in everything that I've seen him in, and he owns this role. He really plays up this whole, like, delusional, psychotic, crazy character so well, and he doesn't even get that much time on screen. He has the opening, then he has, like, the flashback sequence, and then he has just, like, the ending after it's revealed that he's been impersonating Mad-Eye Moody, and he does enough and makes enough of an impact just in those few scenes in that one movie to earn a good as gold spot, if you ask me, which is the B tier. Dean Thomas, I'll put him in the same quite alright as Cho Chang, because he doesn't do a whole lot. Like, I appreciate that it's the same actor and he is along with them for the journey, and he has little bits and pieces where he is, like, you know, a part of the army, and he's with Harry, and he's with Neville and Seamus, and he's like a part of that group, the Gryffindor, like, main crew and things like that. But as a character, there's just not much development, and there's not really much to gravitate towards aside from the fact that you just appreciate that he was along for the whole ride. Dobby. Awesome sauce. Okay, look, I love Dobby. He could go in the godlike tier, but when you look back on it, he's only in Chamber of Secrets prominently, and then I don't remember if he's even in it much at all. I don't know if he's in any of the other movies until the Deathly Hallows Part 1. His death is by far among the saddest moments in the entire Harry Potter franchise, that is for sure. However, he's just really not in the movies enough to quite bump him up into the godlike tier. I do love the character, and that's why he ends up in awesome sauce, but I just can't justify putting him in godlike. I am so sorry. Draco 2, awesome sauce. Look, he is an annoying little runt for the entire first few movies. He is a whiny, spoiled little brat. However, with the Half-Blood Prince in particular, they really do put a major extra focus and emphasis on this character and showing that he's not his father, that he's more his mother than his father, and we'll get to her later, and that he has conflict within him, that he's doing these evil things, but it hurts him. He regrets it. He doesn't want to do it. He, you know, when it comes to this scene where he has to kill Dumbledore, he's like crying and stuff, and it really does help to bring out the layers of the character that we didn't really get to see before. And then even in like the Deathly Hallows Part 2, like after everything they've been through, Harry still saves him, and he kind of reluctantly goes over with Voldemort, but then he leaves with his mother and everything, right? So it shows that there's conflict within the character, and just those last few movies really did amplify the character from the typical, like, bully, narcissistic, you know, bad guy to an actual character that has feelings and emotions and isn't just, yeah, like Harry Potter's nemesis. So I really did appreciate what they did with him by the end. Dudley is a weasel, and I cannot stand him. My god, this guy is annoying. Props to the actor, who really only got like a lot of screen time and got to be really annoying in like the first two movies. In first three movies, I guess. 2-3 movies. Regardless, he was so painfully irritating and arrogant and whiny. But that's the character, and I get that. But you lose him throughout the movies. He doesn't really show up as much. He's like in the beginning of Order of the Phoenix and stuff like that. And there is a key moment in the Deathly Hallows Part 1, I believe. Yeah. Part 1 that they cut where he says, I never thought you were a waste of space to Harry. That one moment probably would have bumped him up a tier or two, because that's one of my favorite moments, and they cut it from the movie. So right now he ends up in rock bottom because of just how damn annoying he is. Dumbledore, come on. Come on. We went through 2 Dumbledores, okay? And I think both of them were equally as magnificent for different reasons. The first, Richard Harris, plays up the more humble Dumbledore, the more quiet, the more reserved. And then we have the second Dumbledore, played by Michael Gambon, who a lot of people at times like to sort of pick on him for his role in the Goblet of Fire, where he just gets so aggressive and he's a little bit more over the top and stuff. But as the movies progress, I mean, we have him for 6 out of the 8 movies, and he is just wonderful. Okay, he plays such a prominent role in Harry's upbringing, in Harry's journey, and he is just, in my mind, when I read the books, sorry to Richard Harris, and RIP to a legend, of course, but I picture Michael Gambon, and he portrayed the role perfectly, in my opinion, if you ask me. Fenrir Greyjoy. Yeah, he's supposed to be this big bad guy. You see him a couple times. I don't even know if he has a line. He just kind of pops up in the background. They did well on the makeup, but as a character, nah. Filch. Can't stand him. As a character, sure, like, great for the actor for playing it up. You know, I always just call him Walder Frey because he is absolutely heinous in Game of Thrones. But in this, he's used for a good few laughs and stuff like that. But as a character, he really doesn't offer up. Like, he doesn't do anything to the journey. He doesn't offer anything to the characters. He doesn't offer anything to the franchise. He really is just kind of a background. They use him to sort of rat out Harry Potter a couple times in the gang, and they use him sometimes for, like, a little bit of a laugh. But as a character, he just doesn't offer anything at all. I'll put Fleur in the super meh tier as well. I found her super boring and just kind of useless in the Goblet of Fire. However, she does end up with Bill Weasley and gets a bit more screen time and a bit more of a role in the latter half of the franchise. So for that, I will bump her up a notch. Professor Flitwick, who went through a drastic change in looks. If you go back to that first movie, he's got like this bald head with like puffy white curly hair around the outside and the big puffy beard, and they changed him, and definitely for the better for poor Warwick Davis. Flitwick, again, he's one of those characters that, like, he kind of pops up every now and then in the movies as, like, you know, just he's Professor Flitwick. You see him in his class, you see him in the hallways, little goofy things happen, like Hagrid sticks his fork in his hand and stuff like that, not in his own hand, in Flitwick's hand. And, but, like, he isn't really, like, a fantastic character. However, I do love Warwick Davis as an actor, and I appreciate that they changed the look of the character, and he is used well to certain degrees. Yeah, I think that's what I'm trying to say. Fred and George Weasley, you know they're going right up in the godlike tier. Come on. I don't mean to put them above Arthur, but at the same time, they do get a lot more screen time than Arthur. They are by far the biggest bits of comedic relief in this entire franchise. I love their chemistry as obviously real-life twins. There's no CGI doubles here or anything like that. They're real-life twins. They seem extremely humble and awesome in real life, and they are incredibly funny and super charismatic, and they just seem like the best people to possibly hang out with and get into all sorts of mischief while you were at Hogwarts. I love these two characters, and Fred's death always chokes me up in the Deathly Hallows Part 2. So yeah, the Weasley twins absolutely deserve the godlike tier. Don't even argue that. Don't even. Cornelius Fudge. Yeah, the dude's just a weasel. Like, I mean, he's very clearly an absolute wimp. Like, he sides with Lucius Malfoy on everything. He pretends to care for Harry, and then in the end, he just kind of gets completely overthrown or killed or whatever the hell happens to him. I don't even remember, and I don't even care either. Cornelius Fudge is an absolute wimp. Ginny Weasley. A lot of people are going to probably disagree with this one. Good as gold, B tier. You know what? I'll bump her up a notch, okay? I won't put her in that one. I think she deserves to be an awesome sauce. Good as gold because I don't think that the character is necessarily the most interesting character in the franchise. However, she very clearly plays a very prominent part in Harry's story, in the story overall. Her and Harry's dynamic isn't necessarily the most seamless and authentic and genuine relationship on the screen throughout the franchise. However, I do appreciate the journey that they go through, how much they care about one another, and again, what a big role she plays in terms of Harry's journey. Of course, they end up together and have their kids together, and then, of course, with the Weasley family dynamic, how Harry always felt like a part of the family anyway and stuff, so I do really appreciate what she does for the franchise overall. Grip Hook, I mean, I wouldn't put him in rock bottom. I'll put him right there next to himself, technically. He doesn't really do much. I'm pretty sure in the first Harry Potter, it's actually Vern Troyer that plays Grip Hook, and it's still just voiced by Warwick Davis. But nevertheless, Grip Hook, only super meh because of him being Grip Hook. Like, he has a few little kind of funny lines in the first movie. And then in the last movie, or is it part 1? It might be part 1. I can't even honestly remember at this point. It is part 1. No, it's part 2, actually. Part 2, when he betrays them and leaves them in Bellatrix's, in her vault, and then he dies a very bloody, miserable death and stuff like that. Just those few little scenes kind of pull him out of the Superman, because if in any way he does impact the story or the journey, I will likely put the character at the very least in Superman. It's just the characters that I feel do nothing and annoy me that end up in the rock bottom tier. So he will end up in Superman because of that. Rubius Hagrid. Possibly my favorite character in the franchise. I would say the most underrated character in the franchise. I love everything about Hagrid. I always get like choked up and emotional in that bit where Hagrid is carrying Harry's lifeless body across the bridge back to Hogwarts, mirroring when he carried him as a baby to Privet Drive. Always gets me. Hagrid is full of wisdom. He is just a big, lovable teddy bear. Easily among my favorite characters in the entire franchise, and by far more than deserving of being in the godlike tier. Harry. It's Harry freaking Potter. I mean, come on. There's this weird thing going around on, like, the internet now that it's, like, cool to hate on the main character of a franchise, saying that they're always, like, the most boring characters. People say it about, like, Frodo. They say it about Harry. They say it about Luke Skywalker, saying that, like, why are the lead characters, the chosen ones, always, like, the most boring characters and stuff like that. I completely disagree. Harry's arc in this journey, his decisions, Daniel Radcliffe's performance, all of it is top tier acting. It is top tier lead character, chosen one portrayal. I adore his journey. Daniel Radcliffe, I know he's really trying to get out of that shadow of Harry Potter, but he will forever be Harry Potter. And I think he's kind of come to terms with that, and he's accepted it rather than trying to push himself away from it. And I love the character. The whole series is named after him, so obviously he's going to end up in the godlike tier. Hermione Granger, the brains of the operation, the beauty of the operation, everything that's not Harry and Ron. Really, she picks up where they lack. Harry's got the bravery, Ron's funny, and I guess he's got a bit of bravery too, and he's like the best friend, but Hermione is everything, right? They wouldn't have survived past the first movie if it wasn't for Hermione. Emma Watson's portrayal of the character is just absolutely stupendous. I mean, she is phenomenal in the role. She was born to play the character, And she's really, of course, stepped out on her own as well and taken on bigger roles outside of Harry Potter, but that doesn't change the fact that she will always be Hermione Granger for me, and the perfect just embodiment and portrayal of the character. I see the words on the pages and I picture Emma Watson, and it goes to show that the casting was just absolutely spot on, could not have been any better. Next is James Potter, and I can't bring myself to put him into the rock bottom, even though he gets like a couple of flashback lines, and that's really it. Everything else we just hear from secondhand accounts. People being like, James was my best friend, I hated him, he was arrogant, and this and that, and you know, you just only ever hear secondhand accounts, and then you see him pop up for Harry. Oh, he gets a little bit of dialogue in the Deathly Hallows Part 2. I don't really know if he gets much more besides that, maybe in the Goblet of Fire where they appear as well. There's not enough for the character for me to really give him any higher than super meh, but he does obviously play a very important part in Harry's journey, and the fact that if it wasn't for his parents dying, then Harry Potter wouldn't exist as a series, and those important key moments like in the Goblet of Fire where his ghost appears, or in the mirror when his parents appear, or the photos that he has around, or the stories, and you know, Sirius Black and that connection, all that kind of stems back to James Potter. So yeah, he does play an important part in the journey, but at the same time he gets like 2 lines of dialogue in the entire franchise, so I can't really put him any higher. Igor Karkarov, super meh, I guess. He's just kind of the typical villainous guy. Like, he's definitely a major red herring throughout the Goblet of Fire. He doesn't really do much, kind of appears, acts evil and suspicious, and then that's the last we really see of him. Krum, same thing. The guy is completely personalityless. However, he does play a decent-sized role in the Goblet of Fire. I mean, you know, he's the greatest Quidditch player of all time in this world, apparently. The youngest guy to do this or that or whatever. He takes Hermione to the Yule Ball. He's the one that gets his mind poisoned and turns on everyone to get Harry and Cedric to you know, the end of the Triwizard Tournament and things like that. So he does play a role in the Goblet of Fire. However, the character barely says anything at all and is really boring. Lavender Brown annoys me to death. Also, they whitewash the character, and I don't really know why. I feel bad for the actress because she gets a lot of flack for it, and it's not at all her fault. She was cast in the role of a lifetime, and especially where she plays a pretty prominent role in Order of the Phoenix, but I just don't really care for the character. She kind of annoys me. I'm gonna put, actually, you know what? I'm going to bump her up, and I'm also going to bump up James Potter, too. Just because of how much I appreciate the flashbacks, and how much I appreciate the role that they play in Harry's life, and how much they mean to him, and how much those moments, for instance, like what made me want to bump them up, is thinking back to Snape's backstory, and how much he loved Lily, and just how pure of heart she was, and that shot of Snape cradling her dead body, and just absolutely, he is destroyed inside. He is crying, and it is such a powerful moment, and it just goes to show how much of an impact these two characters have had on the franchise overall, because I guess it really isn't just on Harry. Like, Lily's is on Snape as well, and James is on, like, Sirius and Remus Lupin and things like that. So the characters definitely do have a lot of pull in the franchise, so that makes me want to bump them up slightly higher. I don't really think they deserve to be in Superman, but I really can't put them much higher, because they don't say a lot. Gilderoy Lockhart, love Kenneth Branagh. He is just so arrogant and goofy and over the top. It's hilarious. He plays into the character's strengths, and he wipes away any weaknesses. He is super annoying, yeah, but he's meant to be, and Kenneth Branagh really embraces that, and I thought that he was great in the Chamber of Secrets. Lucius Malfoy. Lucius Malfoy is, you love to hate him, because he is just such a dick. That's the only way you can describe him. The dude is a total asshole. I mean, at the end of the Chamber of Secrets, he was going to use a death curse on, like, a 12-year-old kid. I know he kind of becomes a bit of a joke as the movies go on. Voldemort loses faith in him, and even in, like, the Deathly Hallows Part 1, he just gets, like, blasted by stunning curses, like, well, not a curse, I guess a stun spell, twice in a row in his own home. He just gets blasted backwards into the background, and it's hilarious. He is more of a villain early on before Voldemort returns, and he kind of just turns into a bit of a wimp later on. But Jason Isaacs does play the role to perfection, so he does deserve to definitely get bumped up out of that, like, middle, low tier area, for sure. Actually, you know what? I feel like I could put him in Good as Gold. I think I will. Luna Lovegood, she'll also go in Good as Gold. Sometimes she annoys me a little bit. She's a little too bubbly, a little too odd, a little too quirky, but at the same time, that's exactly what I love about the character. She's a character unlike any other in the franchise. She is really bubbly, she's really quirky, she's really odd. What I appreciate about her is that she's not afraid to be herself. She dresses how she wants to dress. She says what she wants to say. She believes in what she wants to believe in. And she does teach Harry some very much needed lessons in the Order of the Phoenix about those sorts of things. You know, just because you can't see it doesn't mean you shouldn't believe in it and things like that. And she definitely has a lot of good lessons to teach the other characters, Harry in particular, so I do of course appreciate that. But yeah, sometimes she does just get a little bit under my skin and stuff like that, so Good as Gold seems very fitting. I think Ivana Lynch did a wonderful job in the role, but yeah, we'll put her there. I would love to put him higher. I'm trying to think. Yeah, Awesome Sauce, I think, for Mad-Eye Moody. Look, I know I've said numerous times that he is among my favorite characters, and he definitely is, but upon the rewatch of the franchise, he really only plays a prominent role in the Goblet of Fire, and then we find out that it's technically not even him. Like, it's still the actor, for sure, Brendan Gleeson, but it's not like him. It's Barty Crouch Jr. impersonating him, and then we get bits and pieces of him throughout the other movies, and then he's there in the beginning of Deathly Hallows Part 1, and then he dies very unceremoniously off screen. So, you know, with those extra little added things that kind of bring his arc in the character down, Awesome Sauce seems a little more fitting than godlike. Alright, Madame Maxime, yeah, I don't think she really does anything. I like how she has the little, like, relationship with Hagrid. I think that's cute because Hagrid is absolutely head over heels infatuated with her, and I think that's adorable, and I'm happy for Hagrid. But things don't work out, and aside from that, she just kind of annoys me. Like, she kind of gets under my skin with, like, her accent that just doesn't feel genuine at all, and her saying Dumbledore and stuff like that. So, aside from the Hagrid thing, I don't really care for her at all. Professor McGonagall, the character is an absolute unit. She is a beast. She is a badass. By far one of the best characters in this entire wizarding world. And then the actress herself, Dame Maggie Smith. This woman battled breast cancer in her mid-70s while filming the 6th film, beat breast cancer, went on to continue playing the character. It doesn't get any more badass than that. So shout out to Dame Maggie Smith, who will never ever watch this video. Probably doesn't even go on YouTube. But McGonagall has always been one of my favorite characters. She plays a very important part as the head of the Gryffindor house. She plays a very important part in the journey for Harry, Ron, and Hermione. And then on top of that, again, Dame Maggie Smith and McGonagall in the end of the franchise during the Battle of Hogwarts is a total badass. So there's no other place to put her but godlike. Molly Weasley, I do think she plays a bigger role in Harry's journey than Arthur does. She cares for her kids equally as much, arguably more so, but I feel she embraces Harry more as her own than Arthur does, and I feel she plays a more prominent role than Arthur does as well. You don't really see much of Arthur all the time, and you see a lot of Molly, and I definitely appreciate that. And then, of course, like I mentioned with Bellatrix, you have the scene and the just absolutely wonderful, perfect, magnificent line delivery of "Not my daughter, you bitch," and then kills Bellatrix Lestrange. Just cinema, pure cinema. Chef's kiss is what I was doing there. I did 2 chef's kiss, multiple chefs. Yeah. Moaning Myrtle, sorry, annoys me to death. She really does. Her voice, her everything. And I get that's the character and that's the way she's supposed to be played. So well done to the actress, but I don't care for her. She annoys me. She really does. She gets under my skin, like, very badly. I get irritated whenever she's on the screen. And it's kind of sus. Like, no one really thinks about it. But, like, she was around in, like, the 50s, I think, going to Hogwarts when she died. Because that's, like, when Tom Riddle was there. And then she's, like, in the 4th movie, like, looking at young men, 14 years old or so, in the bathtub. And she's, like, 50 or 60 and dead. A little bit sus. That's all I'm saying. Okay, now we're on to Narcissa Malfoy, who is also going to go right up there next to her husband in Good as Gold. Okay, first off, R.I.P. to the actress Helen McCrory, gone way too soon. I mean, way too soon. I believe she was only 52 when she passed away. Way too soon for way too bright of a light in the acting community. Does she get as much screen time as I wish she did? No. But in those last couple of movies, you can tell that she is definitely Draco's moral compass. His father wants to do anything to get back to kissing Voldemort's feet and being so big of a part in Voldemort's plan and in his life that he is using his son to do all of the dirty work. But Narcissa, you can tell that that's not her. She is trying to... She's the one that walks away with Draco at the end. She's the one that is so concerned for her son that she tells Voldemort that Harry's dead, even though she knows he's alive. And you can tell that all of that doubt in Draco's mind comes from Narcissa. So, with that, she ends up in the good as gold tier. Neville, I'm sorry I couldn't find a better picture of Neville. Probably the greatest glow-up in Hollywood history. This is what he looked like when he was a kid. A little chubby, a little bit awkward and stuff like that. The dude is gorgeous now. I mean, this is like the biggest glow-up I've ever seen in my entire life. Like, this guy's on the cover of magazines now and everything. It's just good for him. Awesome. That's kick-ass. As a character, Neville is probably the bravest soul. Again, like they even say at the end of the Philosopher's Stone, like, it takes bravery to... I don't remember the exact quote, but again, Dumbledore just says something along the lines of, like, it takes even more bravery to stand up to your friends. And that's Neville. Like, he is the reliable, good, brave friend. And at the end, he's the only one that stands up to Voldemort and gives his speech in front of Voldemort's entire army after everyone believes Harry is dead. He is the one that cuts off Nagini's head, and he is the one that, unlike in the books, which a missed opportunity for sure, ends up with Luna Lovegood. So, yeah, huge shout out to Neville Longbottom. Absolutely deserves it. Ollivander, good as gold. R.I.P. John Hurt. Such a phenomenal actor. Good as gold because he does obviously play a very important part in Harry's journey. The wand chooses the wizard, Mr. Potter. And then, of course, in the end, he's the one that reveals where the Elder Wand is and things like that. So he doesn't play a huge role. He's really only in, like, the first and then, like, the last movie. But even with the little bit that he's in, anything that he says is important to the plot and plays a pinnacle role in the journey. So, and I love John Hurt as an actor. Good as gold. Oliver Wood... He's in, like, 2 movies, and he's just kind of, like, he's the captain of the Quidditch team for Gryffindor, and he brings Harry on board. That's all I really have to say about him. The Patil Twins, I will put them in, looking at the list, I feel they are at least a bit more interesting than everyone else in the Super Met here. The only real big thing that they do is, like, go to the Yule Ball with Ron and Harry, but at the same time, they are a part of Dumbledore's army. They are seen throughout the entire franchise. Again, they are, like, the lifers, as I like to call them. They are the ones that are there from the beginning to the end of the journey, or at least play a big enough role that they feel like they are a part of the whole journey. So, quite alright, works for me. Percy... I would put him in rock bottom, but because he is a part of the Weasley family, even though I think he's a massive douche, he's even worse in the books than he is in the movies, because as the movies go on, you just don't even really see any more of him. But he's an absolute narc, man. Like, he's that kid, right? He's the prefect. He's the one that rats out the other students. He's the one that everything has to be done by the rules, done by the book, and he's a tattletale, okay? If you have ever seen Recess, he is the Randall of the Harry Potter franchise. So he gets under my skin, but at the same time, the actor does a good enough job, and he's a Weasley, and I have a soft spot for Weasleys, except for him, really. Peter Pettigrew, I would put him in the rock bottom because he does annoy me. I get that he was a rat for like 13 years, and that's why he, like, acts like a rat and looks like a rat and is always dirty and gross looking. But I mean, the actor played the role well. He literally played it up like he was a rat. Actually, you know what, because of the commitment to the role and the good makeup design, quite alright for Peter Pettigrew. For Wormtail. Peter Wormtail Pettigrew. Aunt Petunia annoys me to death. I don't really have anything else to say about her. She annoys me. She gets under my skin. She's supposed to. Get it. I keep saying that for all these characters. She's supposed to, but that doesn't mean I have to like her for it. So, yeah. Rock bottom. Don't care. Madame Pomfrey. You know what? Because she saves the day so many times, and because she is, again, one that's there for the whole journey, Madame Pomfrey ends up quite alright. Good on you, Madame Pomfrey. Professor Quirrell, also quite alright. He's only in 1 movie, but he plays a very prominent role. He's got Voldemort with a nose, CGI Voldemort with a nose, on the back of his head. That dude was carrying him around for who knows how long. the commitment to the role too, to the stuttering and the weird tone, as well as, again, how he's the main villain of the first movie. So, quite alright. Even though he's only in one movie, he does make a big enough of an impact for me to be okay with putting him in quite alright. Remus Lupin, straight up to the top. Godlike, one of my favorite characters. Love his role in Prisoner of Azkaban. Absolutely devastated by his death in the Deathly Hallows Part 2. By far, one of the most deserving to be in the godlike tier. Love, love, love the character. Love the actor. Definitely deserving of being up there. Ron Weasley, obviously. All three of the main ones are going to be up in the top, and you knew that when you clicked on this video. Ron he's Ron. Like Rupert Grint, again, perfect casting. The kid was born to play the role. Absolutely, without a shred of doubt in my mind. He was born for the role, just like Daniel Radcliffe, and just like Emma Watson. He is Ron Weasley. He is the best friend. He is brave. He is funny. He is just kind of awkward. He is his own character. Ron is Ron. He's got the Ron Weasley facial expressions. He's got the Ron Weasley sayings. He's got the Ron Weasley screw-ups that just make him such a lovable character. And again, he comes from my favorite wizarding family, the Weasleys. So, obviously, Ron ends up in the godlike tier. Scabior, I think his name is. Superman. Only because he's not in it very much. But in the end, he does capture them and take them to Malfoy Manor. He is in the Deathly Hallows Part 2. But the main reason I put him here is because one of my favorite scenes in possibly the franchise, maybe not the franchise, but maybe the second half of the franchise. Regardless, one of my favorite scenes of the Deathly Hallows Part 1 is the moment where he can't see Hermione, but he can smell her perfume, and it is just unbearably intense. Like, it is so intense. You're just waiting for him to reach his hand out, to do something, to cast a spell, to, like, break the barrier of concealment and things like that. Like, it's such an intense moment, so for that, he doesn't get in the rock bottom tier. He just makes it out. Just. Seamus, good as gold. In the early movies, he was more of just kind of the kid that blew things up. He was like kind of a bit of comedic relief. As the movies go on, he kind of goes against Harry a little bit when they first think that Voldemort's back, but in the end, he does apologize. He comes over to Dumbledore's army, and he plays a big enough role in the Gryffindor crew and of Harry's journey as being, for the most part, a loyal and trustworthy friend who sticks by him through thick and thin. Even if he's not the most prominent friend in the group, he is used for a good laugh, and at the same time, he does stick it out with them to the bitter end. So, Seamus, good on you. Good as gold. Kingsley Shacklebot. Quite alright, suffices for him. He's really only in like the latter half of the franchise, but I think that he does his job. You know, being a part of the Order of the Phoenix, being friends with like Mad-Eye Moody and Arthur Weasley and Remus Lupin and things like that. He is a loyal to the soil kind of guy, and I appreciate what he does for helping Harry and helping them to, you know, escape and live and protect and defend and everything like that. So, as a part of the Order, and as someone who plays a pretty prominent role in Harry's protection and the Battle of Hogwarts even, quite alright. Works for Kingsley Shacklebolt. Of course, Sirius Black. How could I not? Again, he doesn't play as prominent of a role as he does in the books, but that doesn't take away the fact that Gary Oldman is just bloody brilliant in the role. And in the Order of the Phoenix in particular, there are a few moments where Sirius kind of takes on that father figure role that Harry never really had because his actual father died and Vernon is a piece of garbage. So those moments that he gets with Sirius are some of my favorite, not only in that movie, but probably of the whole franchise, because how much Harry needed that, and I think how much Sirius needed that after being locked up in Azkaban, and his death hits me possibly the hardest. It's a tight competition. There's a lot of big deaths in this franchise that really hit just right in here. Sirius Black is definitely among the top, if not the top, so godlike for sure. Professor Slughorn, good as gold. He really only plays a big part in the Half-Blood Prince. However, he's this new kind of weird, oddball kind of character that I did really like in the Half-Blood Prince. And I like how he's needed, like he plays a very important role in the Half-Blood Prince. Like they need what's in his head to sort of piece the rest of the puzzle together on how to defeat Voldemort. So he does play an important role in that one movie, at least in particular. And I just kind of like how he's a very different, outside the box kind of character that they bring into this universe. So I do like him for that. R.I.P. Alan Rickman, one of the greatest to ever do it. Snape, he is like the biggest red herring in the franchise. Every single movie, we're led to believe that he's the bad guy, and they play it up very well, especially when he kills Dumbledore. But then you get that grand reveal in the Deathly Hallows Part 2 that shows that he loved Lily Potter more than life itself. And he was always just out trying to protect Harry, and that killing Dumbledore was all a part of the plan, and being, you know, trying to be, well, he was a Death Eater originally, and then he turned, and then trying to get back into Voldemort's good graces. Like, all of that was just according to the plan, and the entire time, all he was doing was out of the love of the memory of Lily Potter, and protecting her son, and doing what Dumbledore asks of him in order to defeat Voldemort in the end. So, at the end of it all, yeah, Snape is definitely one of the best characters. I was going to say the best. I don't know if he's the best, but he's, like, absolutely in my top 3. So, you know, that's God. If that doesn't deserve you, if that doesn't get you into godlike, I don't know what does. Professor Sprout, I don't even know where to throw her. I'll put her quite all right, I guess. Again, just because she's in the whole franchise, like, you don't really see her much. You see her in the earlier films, and then you don't really see her again until the last couple of films. But at the same time, like, she's there. She sticks it out. She toughs it out. She stands by them at the Battle of Hogwarts. So good on you, Professor Sprout. Tonks, good as gold. Mainly because of her being with Lupin, where they have that almost like partial announcement that she's pregnant, and then the death when they die together and they're both laying down dead on the ground with their hands reaching out for one another. It just shreds my heart, breaks it to little pieces. You don't get much of her as a character on her own, but that relationship and the bits and pieces that they share together and what their relationship means, and that, again, their deaths are so impactful that I think good as gold is fitting for Tonks. Professor Trelawney, I love how weird and wacky she is. Emma Thompson does just a wonderful job playing up this super strange character. So yeah, I think she does deserve the good as gold tier because of that. There's not like a ton of like character progression. She plays a moderately sized role in The Prisoner of Azkaban, but aside from that, she kind of just pops in and out whenever she sees fit. So I can't really justify putting her any higher, but good as gold seems fitting. Professor Umbridge, Dolores Umbridge. A lot of people are going to disagree with this one. Yeah. She is possibly, probably, the most hateful character in this franchise. In the movies and in the books. So, all the more reason to give props to the actress for bringing this character to life, unlike anyone else could, making her so unbearable while also giving a stellar performance. She commits to the role, she commits to the tone, to the posture, to the outfits, to the story. And a lot of people overlook these villains, like Joffrey from Game of Thrones, for instance. The actor quit acting for a while because of how much hate he got for Joffrey. But the thing is, that was his role. He was supposed to be as hateful as possible. It's easy, I think, in some cases, for a hero, for instance, to be lovable. It's a lot harder to nail a good villain. Look at something like the MCU, the Marvel Cinematic Universe. How many good villains are there versus how many throwaway villains? And how many good heroes are there versus how many throwaway heroes, right? It's a lot easier to be loved, in my opinion. So to play a great villain takes an immense amount of talent, and she, aside from the fact that she doesn't like murder people like Voldemort or some of the others, is easily the most vile and disgusting and villainous character in the series. So props, honestly, just major props. Vernon, R.I.P. to the actor who passed away a little while ago. I'll put him slightly above Petunia. I can't stand the character because he's just an absolute hateful meathead, but he does get more to do, a little bit more dialogue, and a little bit more attention than Petunia does, so Superman works for me. I think I would say he's my favorite of the Dursleys, if you can have like a favorite Dursley. It's hard to do that. So, okay, we're like, oh god, yeah, I forgot. This is 63 characters, so we're kind of running out of room here. But thankfully, we know who the bottom two are. Voldemort. He's the Dark Lord. He's the main bad guy. The entire second half of the franchise was riding on him, on Ralph Fiennes' performance. And Ralph Fiennes is Voldemort. Again, it's another one of these just perfect casting choices. He embraces everything about the character. The steely, cold stare, the almost whispering hiss-like voice, the subtle, slow, almost like floaty movements. He commits to the role, and even though they have to CGI his nose off and stuff like that, he absolutely perfectly embodies Voldemort as a character, Voldemort as a villain. It just, everything about the character is exactly what a main villain for this franchise needed to be. So, bravo to him. I keep doing this a lot. My hands, I guess I wanted to move them a lot in this video. Xenophilius Lovegood, if I'm pronouncing that right. He's only really in a decent portion of the Deathly Hallows Part 1. However, that sequence is one of the best sequences. Probably that whole last portion is like the best bit of the movie. I don't know, I think the Ministry of Magic bit's pretty good too. But nevertheless, that whole bit where like the tale of the brothers comes into play and stuff like that in the Deathly Hallows, and how he feels so horrible but he betrays them to get Luna back and things like that. And then you just see that he's as much of an oddball as Luna when they're dancing together at Bill and Fleur's wedding and stuff like that. So that works for me. Again, with the hands. I don't know with the hands today. Maybe I'm just really restless. A lot of hand movements and stuff like that. But that's it, folks. That is my Harry Potter character tier list. Again, I do sincerely apologize if I missed a character that maybe you really liked, but as far as I'm concerned, I have all of the major characters here, or at least the characters that have at least something to do with the plot and the journey overall. So, of course, as always, back to me. So, that is all for today's video, folks. Be sure to let me know down in the comments if you agree or disagree with which tier I put each character in. And while you're at it, feel free to let me know which characters would end up in which tiers for you. If you enjoyed that video, be sure to hit that thumbs up button. And if you'd like to see more content, consider subscribing to my channel and ringing that little bell icon. That way you can be notified about all of my latest uploads. And as always, stay safe. Thank you so much for watching. And that's a wrap. Hey you, yeah you, if you made it this far, just know I appreciate you, and while you're here, consider hitting that subscribe button.